Hi, Maria Mandarino here, and tonight I am going to be sharing some information about the Enneagram as well as astrology. Particularly, we're going to be focusing on Aries moving into Neptune. But before we jump into that, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe if you haven't already. Doesn't cost you anything to do, and it really helps me out here at the channel, helps the channel grow and reach more and more people. So I'd really appreciate if you would do that. And please remember to like, comment, and share as well. Share the episode. All these things really, I can mark it away and it doesn't do what those things do. So if you would please be kind enough to do that, we'll help the episode to reach more people and the channel to reach more people. So thank you in advance for doing that. So we're going to talk about Neptune in Aries, which is just happening now. And Neptune will be in Aries for about 13 more years. And it's a pretty big transit because the last time we saw it, we were basically in this country. It was the time of the Civil War. And on the other side of the planet, Garibaldi was unifying Italy. And there were other things happening around the globe at the same time that speak to this energy. So it's a pretty big deal. And it's an energy that we can make space for in our lives because it's pretty amazing that we're here on the planet at this time to work with this energy, to welcome it into our lives, and to use our gifts and our understanding of our gifts through the Enneagram and through your chart to make this world better because we can always go the high or the low side of a transit, right? So I'm going to pretty much talk about that through the Enneagram. So quick explanation or description, I should say, of Neptunian energy. So spirituality, we associate spirituality with Neptune. Illusion and dreams. Also confusion can be kind of that lower expression of Neptune. Okay, so spirituality, illusion, dreams, but also confusion and this nebulous quality can go with it. If you think of Poseidon rising out of the mist in the ocean, right? You can't see everything. There's this mist and haze, right? So it's that kind of energy. Sometimes things are not as clear as we'd like them to be. Then on the other hand, this is happening in Aries, and Aries energy involves action, courage, and initiation. Um, and also aggression, even anger can be part of the Aries expression, right? Aries, as I've talked about before, is inceptional, so it starts things. It's the beginning of the astrological new year, so it has this energy of, hey, let's go, right? But then we have this Neptunian quality of spirituality and illusion and dreams. That's kind of a slower energy, right? It's kind of, I don't mean to say heavier because it's not really heavier. If anything, it's probably lighter, but it's ethereal, right? So we have this ethereal, access to ethereal energy, I should say, and then this spark of Aries energy, this sudden, let's go kind of energy quality that Aries has. So these two energies are going to be coming together for the next 13 years. And again, the last time we saw this was the American Civil War and the unification of Italy. Okay, so definitely stirs things up. New ways of looking at things, perhaps, is a good way to look at this. So we see during a transit like this, the rise of new spiritual movements, new spiritual ideas. Again, Aries inceptional, and the spiritual piece being Neptune, right? So the rise of new spiritual movements, new spiritual ideas or ideals. Idealistic warriors can be another, right? Because Aries is that warrior energy, and the idealism is the Neptunian energy. And what we can also see in the lower expression of this is blurred lines between action and illusion, kind of getting caught up in the dream and initiating something that maybe isn't crystal clear because it's in that Neptunian fog. So discernment is huge with a transit like this. Knowing yourself, because again, we're going to bring it back to the Enneagram, right? So knowing yourself, the Enneagram is a fantastic tool, as is your astrological chart, right? And bringing them together the best way. I'm a little biased, but the best way to know yourself, is to bring these two tools of sacred geometry, these two systems, I should say, not tools, two systems of sacred geometry to deepen self-awareness. Okay. So this is a time for, again, as I said, discernment, because we have the potential for either reckless idealism or inspired leadership, right? And the question for all of us should be, how can I invest my gifts, my understanding of my deepest self to make this world better, to contribute in a more meaningful way, to use this identity, Neptunian identity in a more inspired way. Um, so it's a transit that requires clarity, again, discernment with clarity. And so working with your Enneagram, knowing your Enneagram so that you can use the higher side, the higher expression of your Enneagram type is really going to help you make the best of the next 13 years. And again, we're here at a pretty remarkable time in history. So I'd love for you to be able to use your understanding of your Enneagram and your chart as well, to bring clarity and deeper discernment to this time in your life. So we're going to do what we did last time in a similar fashion. I'm going to go through all the types. I'm going to start with type 1 and just go through them chronologically. And we're going to look at the growth opportunity for each type and the potential pitfall this time. Okay, so first is the growth opportunity of the type, then the pitfall. We're going to do that for each of the 9 types. So type 1, the reformer, also called the perfectionist sometimes. The growth opportunity for the type 1s is to channel idealism, again, that Neptunian idealism, channel the idealism into meaningful change. The potential pitfall, if you're an Enneagram 1, is to beware of self-righteous battles and inflexible moral standards, because you can really get caught up in that. Particularly, this kind of energy lends itself to imperfect times. I think we're all kind of seeing that somewhere. And whether it's in the greater scheme of things or in your immediate life, it doesn't really matter, because I'm seeing it happen, in the greater world. I'm seeing it happen in my immediate professional world. I'm also seeing it happen in my neighborhood. So it doesn't really matter what you're applying it to. The pitfalls you're going to see at the global or the local level or the immediate personal life level as well. So beware, type 1s, beware of self-righteous battles and inflexible moral stances, because these are imperfect times. And type 1s can get real persnickety about the things that aren't right and good, because you know what's right and good, right? Out of the 9, right? We count on you guys to know what's right and good, right? So don't get caught up in that. There's your pitfall in this Neptune and Aries energy. Don't go there. Instead, the growth opportunity, channel idealism into meaningful change. Okay. Type 2, the helper on the Enneagram. Your growth opportunity is to serve. Again, we know 2s, they're helpers, right? So you serve better than anybody else in the Enneagram. Serve from a place of genuine inspiration. Inspiration is a Neptunian word. Serve is the action word of Aries. Okay, so your growth opportunity is service through genuine inspiration. Your potential pitfall is to avoid martyrdom and overgiving without boundaries. So what happens, type 2s, when your boundaries are not in place, right? You get resentful, angry, potentially volatile, and you start to look like an unhealthy 8, right? So remember the growth opportunity. Serve from a place of genuine inspiration. Okay. I am making some notes on my notes. Type 3. The achiever, also the performer, we call them with the Enneagram. Your growth opportunity, type 3s, find authenticity. That's a word you tend to like. Fours and 3s like authenticity is a word. Find authenticity beyond external success. So you're not looking out there. right? It's an inside job. The Enneagram work is an inside job, and type threes really have to remember that because they love to perform. They love to put it on display, to prove their value, their worth by putting the performance on display. Find authenticity beyond the external. Remember, you're a human being. I say this all the time to my threes. You're a human being, not a human doing. Okay. So your pitfalls to look out for, type threes: chasing an illusion of achievement without inner fulfillment. Okay, so getting caught up, the illusion is that Neptunian, you know, quality, right? The low expression of Neptune is illusion. So chasing illusions of achievement because you love the achievement, right? You love the goal. You love, let's go get the goal, right? Without inner fulfillment. Okay, so check in with yourself. You might be putting on a hell of a show, but are you authentically fulfilled? Okay, that takes you back to your growth opportunity. Find authenticity, type threes, beyond the external success. Keep checking in with yourself inward, literally, like when I say check in, for you guys, it's check in deep into your heart and ask those questions. Type four, the individualist, also called the romantic or the artist sometimes in the Enneagram. Type four is your growth opportunity in the Neptune in Aquarius transit is to create something. I hope you like this word, to create something revolutionary with purpose. I know you love the word perfect purpose. I know you do. So growth opportunity for fours, create something revolutionary. There's your Aries energy, revolutionary, right? Aries is the warrior. So revolutionary with purpose. And I mean, I don't have to tell you, four is this higher purpose. You know that. Your pitfalls, type fours, okay, where you can get stuck. Risk of drowning in fantasy because the illusion of Neptune can really romance you down the wrong path. Okay, so be aware, excuse me, sorry, be aware of the risk of drowning in fantasy because fours can do that ordinarily. Neptune makes it even easier to go into the fantasies without grounding your dreams in reality. Okay, because there's where you can drown in the ocean of Neptune. So make sure you don't do that. Be aware of the risk of drowning in fantasy without grounding dreams in reality. And instead, your growth opportunity is to create something revolutionary with genuine purpose. Type fives, the investigator. Your growth opportunity is to deepen your spiritual wisdom and esoteric study. So, type fives, the investigator, the observer, the researcher, we also call fives, right? So, they love to study and research and learn. So, which is awesome because, Neptune is the opportunity to go into the deeper philosophical learning that fives love. Like, here's like, we're actually telling fives to like go learn, right? We're usually telling them to go feel instead, right? So fives, we want you to go learn, but we want you to do it this way. We want you to deepen your spiritual wisdom with esoteric study. Okay. Your pitfalls, intellectual detachment, just becoming aloof in a difficult time, because again, we talked about this being an imperfect world kind of energy, right? Because not everybody's going to play this one right, which is why I do these episodes, because I'm hoping that through the Enneagram, we start to stretch and do things better than we might otherwise. So pitfall is intellectual detachment and avoidance of real world action. So, fives like to go down that rabbit hole and not come up and not connect with the rest of the world, right? We don't want you to do that. We want you to deepen your spiritual wisdom and esoteric study without the intellectual detachment, without the avoidance of real world action. So, one of the things fives like to do is read about it and then they kind of freeze and don't do anything about it. So beware of that if you're doing that. If you're learning all the spiritual things, but you're not putting them into play, if you're not putting them in some kind of action to the ideas, that's where the work is. Okay. Type six, the loyalist, also known as the loyal skeptic on the Enneagram. Your journey, we always say, is the journey of faith. So your growth opportunity is to develop trust in personal intuition and faith. Okay. Develop trust in personal intuition and faith. So this might be hard for you because of that Neptunian quality, because there's a vagueness that can come with Neptune. It involves faith in what you can't necessarily see or what's not fully completely formed. There has to be a level of trust because there is mist in this. There is the mist of the ocean, right? So it's not crystal clear. Spirituality, never crystal clear. Okay. So we always have to go on faith. So for type 6, trust in your personal intuition and faith. And the pitfalls will be if you find yourself struggling with shifting beliefs, because this is a time of shifting beliefs, right? And Aries is kind of whispering at everybody, you know, be courageous, go, move forward, do, act, right? Sixes don't like that. They want proof that they're going to be safe before they act on anything. So struggling with shifting beliefs that make you feel anxious. There's your pitfall. Okay. If you find yourself feeling anxious, that's probably easier for you to identify. Anxiety, discomfort, I should say. Ask yourself what shifting belief is making me uncomfortable, because that's in your pitfall. That's kind of untying that knot a little bit, struggling with your shifting beliefs. You find yourself anxious. What shifting beliefs are going on in my world that I don't like, that's making me anxious? Where and how can I develop trust in personal intuition and faith? Um, I'm going to give you a recommendation. Meditation. Type 7, the enthusiast, also called the adventurer on the Enneagram, also called the epicure. That's an old word for type 7. So your growth opportunity, type 7s, is to seek stillness and inner inspiration. So fives like to, they're very much like that Aries energy. They want to go, run and do and try new things because they're fun. They like to have adventures. That's why we call them the adventurer, right? So seven's inclination is going to be to use that Aries energy and like jump off of the diving board. Not what you're going to do. Seek stillness and inner inspiration. There's your growth opportunity, sevens. So I say this to sevens a lot. Slow it down. It's not that you can't think about fun, see the fun, maybe even plan for the fun, but I don't want you to do it yet. Okay. Seek stillness and inner inspiration. Get clarity. Get clarity. Use the Neptunian energy to discern, to go deeper, to drop into your spirituality so that you can then act with that Aries, the access to the Aries energy in a way that is more focused, and more thought through. So your pitfalls for the type 7 is chasing, if you find yourself doing this, chasing spiritual highs without depth or integration. So if you're not dropping into these spiritual ideas because they just seem like so much fun, let's just go to all the different retreat centers or different spas that host different types of activities. And, if you're doing those types of behaviors, that's chasing the spiritual high. Okay. Chasing the spiritual high without depth or integration, without processing time. Okay. Remember, 7 does have a line to 5, so you can use some of that 5 energy if you want. I would recommend that actually. And use that to, again, go back to your growth opportunity, which is what? Seek stillness and inner inspiration. Okay. And then when you act, 7, when you do, move into the thing that inspires you, it's going to be with clarity. It's going to be with discernment. It's going to be with the higher side of what you bring and being able to seize opportunity in a meaningful, grounded, clear way. All right. Enneagram type 8, the challenger, also called the leader, also sometimes called the boss. Growth opportunity for Enneagram type 8s is to lead with wisdom and a sense of purpose. So type 8 also has easy access to that Aries energy, and they don't much care for the Neptune side of life. It's not clear enough for them. It doesn't feel safe to them. Um, it doesn't feel like they're in charge. But Aries, on the other hand, they can do that one. All right. So leadership, the Aries piece of it, with wisdom, the Neptune piece of it. So it kind of means slowing it down a little bit, taking it in, kind of similar to what I said about the three, like bringing it into your body. Lead with wisdom and a sense of higher purpose. There's your growth opportunity. Your pitfalls, if you find things kind of going a little off for you during this transit, and again, this is a 13-year journey, guys, okay? So anywhere, if you find yourself becoming a radical force or an aggressive or an assertive force without consideration of impact, if you are just being the ram and charging in, check yourself because this is not the transit to be doing that. Okay, this is actually the transit where if you're doing that, you're probably going to have a hard time with some things. So if you find yourself being that radical force, that aggressive, assertive force without considering the impact on anyone or anything, and you don't care, you just boom, you're going to just be the ram charging through, stop. Think about what it might mean to lead with wisdom and a sense of higher purpose. And I'm gonna toss out that word that I tossed out for I think it was for the sixes. Meditate. It's gonna look totally different for the eight though. Um, and I'm going to say one other thing for the eights, go out there and use your body in a different way so that you expend this Aries energy. You use up the physicality that you need to engage in, because you are a body type, gets to be expressed somehow without being this radical force. Okay, so just get out there, hike, walk, run, go to the gym. If you do martial arts, do that. Qigong, if you do the internal martial arts. But use your body because that energy for you, especially out of all the nine types. I mean, it's probably a transit, again, the 13-year transit that all of the nine types could benefit, in some way from some body-based practice. But I would say for the eights, it's non-negotiable. You kind of gotta, because otherwise you're just gonna, it's all going to be packaged in a very physical, confrontational way. It's not the way to use this transit. Okay. And again, it's 13 years. So you want to get this one right, especially the eights. Type 9 are peacemakers. Your growth opportunity. You're probably going to love this energy. I think out of just about everybody here, you're in the fives, probably you're going to like it the most. Turn utopian visions into real action. So, nines like to merge and make everybody happy. They like to be the subtle force. I'm going to say the chi because I'm also an acupuncturist, the chi that brings everyone together. They're the mediators, right? We call the nines the mediators, bringing everybody together, making everything nice and harmonious, right? So everyone can get along. So there's no confrontation, there's no fighting, there's no argument. However, this is Aries energy, so be realistic too, because what's around you is not always going to feel harmonious. The Neptunian piece of it will, and that's your utopian vision. There's the thing you can work with. There's your growth opportunity, right? The utopian vision. This is a season, 13-year season of Neptunian utopian visions. They're there for you pretty much on a silver platter, but you got to turn it into action. That's the Aries piece. That's the piece that you don't like, type 9. Type 9 doesn't really like action. They kind of, they're prone, first of all, they're prone to sloth in their lower expression, right? They're kind of inactive. So if something's making you uncomfortable, be aware that you're going to do the opposite thing that the eight's going to do. You're just going to kind of sit on the couch and try to blend into the wallpaper so nobody notices you, right? Turn your utopian visions into real action. Your pitfall, type 9, pitfalls, I should say type 9, is escaping into idealism, because that is, again, the lower, well, both of those things are Neptunian, lower expressions of Neptune. Escape, right? Because you escape into the mist, you kind of just go away into the mist. And idealism, rather than participating in change. Change is the Aries, the healthy Aries piece. It's the action piece that nines kind of like to avoid or prefer to avoid because it could possibly feel like confrontation. So be aware if you're escaping into idealism. This is kind of similar to the fours where you could drown in fantasy, right? So the 9 can escape into idealism. So if you find yourself doing that, rather than participating in the change, just having this idealistic view from the sidelines somewhere and you're really piecing out. Be aware that there has to be this Aries piece of the Neptunian energy. These two things have to be brought together to be purposeful. And if you don't work the energy, it's going to work you. So you've got to bring it together and turn those utopian visions, the Neptunian visions, into action, an Aries-based action, healthy action. So, so I'm going to leave you with some questions. And I'd love to hear this in the comments if you want to share. So where does Neptune in Aries happen in your chart? What house is it happening in? And how might this be extrapolated into your Enneagram? Can you make this more specific now with what I just gave you, with these ideas, with the growth opportunities and the pitfalls? Where in your chart is this playing out? What house? What venue in your life? Again, 13-year period. Okay, so what house is this going to play out for you? And how does that? How does your Enneagram merge with that? How does it tie in? How might this transit challenge your own Enneagram growth? Now, with that question, I'm thinking not just the high and low side of your type, but even your stress points and your security points, or the lines across in the Enneagram. Where do you go in stress? Where do you go when you want to attain a goal, right? So how might this transit affect all of those things? And so in general, how do you see this playing out in your life? Share a comment, and let us know, because not only does that help the channel, but it helps the other people who are doing this work as well. All right, because this is a community here. These are people that speak both languages, I should say, or a little of one and more of the other. But this is new work. There's not a lot of people that speak these languages together. So share what your experience is, because it's those insights help everyone, not just yourself. So please share those insights and how they're important for you, how you perceive them being important, and try to see the transit from, if you can, I guess, from three vantage points. From the now, just stepping, like in the tarot, we have the Fool card, stepping out onto the whole journey of the major arcana. So yeah, how are you stepping out into this energy, the unknown, right? Plus it's Neptune, right? So there's also this idealistic piece of the unknown too. It's all new and exciting, and it's Aries, so it's inceptional as well. So it's that the Fool card, I should say, of stepping out. And then, think about the journey. And you maybe even want to do that through the tarot. I never actually thought of doing it that way, but yeah, do it through the major arcana and kind of throw those cards down in order, in chronological order, and see if you can wonder about what the next 13 years might look like for you according to your journey, using the tarot as a guide, of course, against your chart, against your Enneagram. Play with it, get creative with it. It's Neptune, right? So use that energy, have some fun with it. Actually, that just kind of came to me. So and I'm going to use spiritual direction as a little segue here. That's kind of what happens in spiritual direction. Sometimes things like that come out, and I don't for a minute think it's me. That's the spirit coming in, inspiring. So yeah, I like that idea. If you like it, use it. Okay, play with your chart against your Enneagram and the Fool's Journey of the Tarot, and just think about the end of the 13-year period and where you'll be, how old you'll be. And we don't know these, we don't know we know how old you'll be, but we don't know where you'll be, right? We can only surmise. So, play with it like it's a big painting, and you don't know what the final painting's going to look like, but start sketching it and playing with it and say, what if? What if I did this? What if I did that? What might it look like? And, play with it. Take the arc. Take the arc. So when I said three places, I think of it as the story arc, where you start out, the peak. I call it the watershed scene. where you're at the top of the water wheel and you can look back on your life and you can look forward. And it's this pause in life that we have where we can see where we were and we can almost see where we're going, but not quite because the wheel hasn't turned. Right. So think of the watershed scene, right? Where you are right now, what it might look like at the top of that wheel, and where you think you might be in 13 years if you work this energy right. So, and it kind of sounded a little cocky. I don't mean it to. But depending on how you work with this energy, right? Because nothing's in stone, right? Nothing's in stone. Fate and free will. What else do I have for you here? Remember to subscribe to the channel. I mentioned that before. If you enjoy content like this and you want to be notified when there's more of it, I pretty much do this once a week. So remember to subscribe, comment, like, and share. Remember to sign up for my email list. There'll be a link in the show notes, so you'll be kept updated on any specials that are going on, anything that's going on in my spiritual direction work, and my Enneagram work, or my astrology work. It's the best way to hear about announcements and any offers that I have. I also have my Enneagram course, my online course, which is called Smart But Stuck. So that link will be in the show notes as well. I also have a webinar on the Enneagram and setting boundaries in relationships. So you can also sign up for that. I'll have that in the show notes as well. And if you want to work with me directly, I have a free half-hour discovery call where we can talk about what I do and how I can best help you. And I do spiritual direction online as well. I do charts as well, and all those links will be in the show notes for you to check out. All right, thanks so much. Wishing you a wonderful journey of Neptune in Aries, and wish you the best in this 13-year transit. I think it's transformational stuff. I mean, 13 years is no small stuff, right? So I wish you the best with that, and I will see you next time. Thanks for being here.